Let's get to our A-plus panel now. Markowski Investments President and Watchdog on Wall Street host, and that is Chris Markowski. We are also joined by Mitch Rochelle from PwC, and also haven't seen you for a while, Jeanette. Great to see you, Jeanette Hoffman. She's a Republican strategist,
Thanks,
and it's good to see you join us once again. She is also Marathon Public Affairs President, Jeanette Hoffman. So, Jeanette, what's your take? Can we assume that this is an effort to get the president out there talking about business and building up the economy again?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is welcome news for small business owners and for everyone who's trying to come out of this crisis. I mean, we are not only facing a public health crisis, but an economic crisis. And I just saw a survey today from the National Federation of Independent Businesses. Those Paycheck Protection Program and EIDL, Economic Injury Disaster Loan Programs, 80% of small businesses who have applied for those loans, they still haven't gotten them yet, Bob. So yeah. I think this is welcome news. People are hurting right now. They're struggling to pay their workers. They're, looking for those paychecks. I think this is really good news today.
So, Mitch, when you hear 80% haven't received payment yet, what do you think needs to change? Where do we go from here?
Well, the backlog is overwhelming, and I think that's part of the problem. And while many of these loans were in the backlog process, so think about it. You apply for a loan, so the bank has a process, then it has to get forwarded to the SBA, who has a process, then it gets a loan number, then it goes back to the bank for funding. So that's a lot of processes, and I think many of the loans just got caught in that, and then the funding got cut off. I think the real challenge is what happens to all those borrowers who hadn't even ponied up and filed the application in the first place. Many of those are sole proprietorships or folks who are self-employed. There's 10 million of them. So if we could get to a point, I think Bobby said in the intro, that at the end of the week, this thing could be out of money. That could very well be the case. And then the question is there a 3.0 version of this thing?
Oh, my goodness. And
there will be.
Yeah, maybe so. And Mitch and Chris didn't want to do any disservice to you. We just hadn't seen Jeanette for a while. You are certainly part of our A-plus panel. So, Chris, do we go back and get more money? I mean, we might as well get into modern monetary theory right here.
I know it's becoming like the new religion. Just keep printing and printing and printing and printing. I don't know when it's going to end.
Let me ask you this, Chris. How much you want?
Well, most of the people I've spoken to, and we've been trying to help people out to get these loans, they're in that crowd. They haven't gotten their money.
Give me an idea, by the way, since you are doing that, can you give me kind of like an average size company, either by sales revenue or however you want to measure it, and how much they've applied for?
I would say the average I've seen is the ones that we're handling have been under $1 million for the most part. And I'd say 85 to 90% of them haven't received their money yet, or they're just still in queue. And some of the excuses that they're coming up with, like your zip code doesn't exist. It's just ridiculous things that they're coming up with. I think the SBA is still running on Commodore 64s or something like that. It's really slow.
Jeanette, really, how much more can our nation handle? We're talking about more money. What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, well, that's why the president getting out there and talking about reopening our economy in places where it makes sense. Look, there's a lot of places like the Northeast and New Jersey, where I'm from, where, look, we're obviously we're still dealing with coronavirus cases overrunning hospitals. So maybe certain places still need to remain closed, but reopening the economy, getting Americans back to work, it's really important because this financial crisis is going to loom for months to come. This is worse than the Great Depression. So for the president to get out and talking about bringing small businesses money, getting people back to work, it's really critical right now in the midst of this crisis.
Yeah, Mitch, you're such a heavyweight in New York and Wall Street. Can you give me a feel for how important it is to get the rest of the country working, even if Wall Street and New York City are not back to normal?
Well, if you think about it, when they started talking over the weekend about the rest of the country opening up, we certainly in downstate New York are not. One of the estimates was that 47% of the GDP of the country by state was opening up. So I think that's vital. We all sort of have that New Yorker's view of the world, the New York Magazine cover. But the reality is west of the Hudson River, there's a vibrant economy. And it's important to get it all open, not just, the 5 boroughs of New York City, rather. So I think it's vitally important. And I'm it's very heartening to know that Florida and Texas and some of these other parts of the country are starting to be able to go to movie theaters and restaurants, because that's important, because those are jobs there too.
Well, Chris, the president mentioned a safe and rapid reopening of the country. Do you think those two words can go together?
Oh, I think so. From the beginning with this thing, you took a look at the numbers. I think we followed along and saw who was at risk and handled it differently. I think we would have been in a much better position. I don't understand the logic or reasoning in California right now based upon their numbers, and they're going to continue this lockdown. I think people have, you take even look at New York, 1 out of 4 people have gotten it in New York, and we can't push this along a little bit faster and get New York up and running again. I'm taking a look at what's going to happen with real estate in New York City. It's trying to juggle what's going on with all of these businesses that can't afford to pay rent, and they're not getting forbearance, and there's only 3 months that you're going to have on mortgages. It's a big mess.
Jeanette, let me ask you, as a Republican consultant, I have a pet peeve with something the president says. He says, I built the best economy in the history of the world, or whatever it is. I've been a small business owner. My grandfather started a typesetting business. He came through the Depression. He had an 8th grade education and made a successful typesetting business. And I think of all the millions and millions of people that have gone in to create a $22 trillion economy. And I don't mind somebody saying, I support, the entrepreneurship of this country, and we are the greatest, we are exceptional. All that's fine, but do you have to get up there and say, look what I built?
Yeah, that's almost an Obama-esque comment to me.
Oh, wow, wow. I see what you did there. I see what you did there. No.
Small business, I agree with you. Small business is the backbone of this economy. And, something that's happening in our state, in New Jersey, and some other states, they allow some of these big box retailers, Target and Lowe's and Home Depot and some of these other places to stay open, but they make small retailers, small business, mom and pops stay closed. And I don't really understand the logic behind that. So if Target and Home Depot and some of these big box places can stay open, what about our small businesses?
I
think we can stay to do it. You're still reeling over my Obama comment.
You turned that back to Obama in a flash. That was admirable.
I'm good at what I do. What can I say?
Oh, Jeanette, thank you so much. Bob's all tickled over here.
That was funny. We hadn't talked for a while. Now I remember why I like you. Okay. We're going to take a break and come back and talk more with our same A-plus panel. We'll continue our coverage of the coronavirus crisis after this.
Welcome back to American Agenda. As we've said throughout the show, right now, Hillary Clinton endorsing former Vice President Joe Biden.
Yep.
She's also talking about how the coronavirus impacts women. It's still happening. Now, interestingly enough, this almost directly coincided with President Trump addressing the nation on small business.
Right, which is what he's doing right now also. And we know that Hillary Clinton and Joe Biden are still talking on their video chat. What is it? Their
virtual town hall.
Thank you. Their virtual town hall. For some reason, it's not rolling off my tongue. Everything's Zoom to me now.
Right. Sure.
But of course, she has. She brings some baggage with her, and obviously defeated by the president, and probably a good target in the future. Even as she endorses the president, I'm sure that'll come up. And meantime, we want to talk about the political implications of this with our A-plus panel, which includes Chris Markowski, and we also have PricewaterhouseCoopers partner business development leader Mitch Rochelle, and also Republican strategist Jeanette Hoffman. So, Chris, how do you read this as far as Hillary? Does this matter at all, or is this just another target for the president?
No, I really don't think it's a non-event right now. Going back to what you were talking about before, Donald Trump talking about the greatest economy being built, that's all well and good. And I think he did a lot of great things to lower all sorts of regulations and tax cuts, and it was great. But that was yesterday's news. It's like that Janet Jackson song, "What have you done for me lately?" And that's how business owners are going to look at it in November. It is what it is. That's what they're going to look at. They're going to say to themselves, they're not going to care what it was back in 2019.
You don't think so?
Have their business?
You don't think so?
No.
Because don't you think the president is going to try to say this was, again, that invisible enemy? It just came out of nowhere. And trust me, I'll get you back to where we were.
But people are going to start thinking, how did LeBron James and the Lakers get that money? And how did this one get that money? And how those big businesses? It's easy to bring up all sorts of class warfare that divide people when it comes to this. And if you've lost your business and if you've lost your job and you see that some people have gotten it and some others have not gotten it, like, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if they're going to even pour more money into this. And God willing, there'll be a treatment that will come up shortly, and then we can all get back to work and put this behind us. But at that point in time in November, if the economy is still doing poorly and you're talking about unemployment at 10, 15%, if not higher, it's going to be real difficult to win in that situation.
Jeanette, what are your thoughts on Clinton endorsing Biden?
I didn't know that she hadn't already, to be quite honest with you. I mean, it's really just such a non-event. I can't even believe that they're even talking about this right now. I don't think it even matters. I mean, virtually the entire Democratic establishment has endorsed Joe Biden. I mean, it's really the lowest enthusiasm level in a primary I've ever seen. I think it's really a non-entity. And I mean, how many people are on that virtual town hall right now?
Oh, that's funny you asked that. 12? I think it was 22,000. Is that what we have? And that's nationwide, by the way. So,
I mean, I would love to compare that to the president's ratings right now. So,
of course,
I really think it's just a non-event.
Jeanette, you brought up an interesting point about this hasn't happened already. You know, a lot of people said, too, when President Obama came forward and endorsed Biden, well, it's about time.
Yeah. What were you waiting for?
I mean, it's almost, I mean, if I was Biden, I wouldn't even ask for it at this point. I mean, she really brings nothing to the table as far as enthusiasm.
That's true, except a lot of baggage. So, Mitch, let me ask you about this. The last time the Democrats actually had somebody that was pro-business was Bill Clinton. And you can say what you want about him negatively. That was coinciding with the dot-com boom. And since then, Democrats have not been pro-business. Do you think that's necessary for Biden to try to be pro-business? How do you think that plays out?
Well, a couple things, Bob. One is I think a lot of the campaign rhetoric sort of building up to not just in the 2016 general, but sort of in the midterms and building up to this general has been sort of anti-business. But if you go back to Clinton, just remember what James Carville, his chief strategist, said, it's the economy's stupid. And I'll sort of echo that point, which is the most important thing in November is going to be let's say after this Thursday's weekly jobless claims, we have 30 million Americans who are out of work. OK, that is a significant percentage of our workforce. And what is the status of those folks in November and how do they feel? Because I think people are going to vote based upon the prospects for getting a job or whether or not they got their job back. And that's going to be the single biggest issue, I think, in November.
Chris, do you agree that that's the biggest issue in November?
Absolutely. It always is. People are going to take a look and say, was I better off now, then? And they're going to take a look at this. And they're, again, people like to point blame and they're going to point fingers here and there. And it's going to always come down to that.
Yeah. Jeanette, you're in New Jersey, as I recall. What do you think about Jersey City opening up? How do you think the governor is handling all this?
So Governor Murphy, he's a very far left Democrat here in New Jersey. He just yesterday said he's going to open up a roadmap to open the state in a matter of weeks, not months, which is a good thing. He didn't provide any actual dates, but he said he's going to double the amount of testing, which is very good because our testing situation is a little bit of a mess. So more testing, obviously good. Matter of weeks. That very positive. There's a little frustration from some people here that they think he's not doing enough yet. But I think it's positive. He's actually gotten some shout outs from President Trump, even though he's a very far left Democrat, Governor Murphy, for the way he's handled the crisis here in New Jersey, because he's acting pretty diplomatically, unlike, Governor Cuomo, who throws a temper tantrum at the president every chance he gets. So I think we're heading in the right direction here in New Jersey. Time will tell. Memorial Day is huge for New Jersey because of the Jersey Shore and the tourism money that brings in. Whether we're going to hit that milestone and open up in time for Memorial Day, I'm not sure.
Did you see the Blue Angels today?
I did not get a chance to see the Blue Angels. They didn't fly over my house, unfortunately. But it was.
Oh, go ahead, Jeanette. Did you get to see the Blue Angels, Mitch? Anyone else? Chris?
Yeah, the kids
did,
went
as
out
a
to go
matter of
see
fact. We were walking into an urgent care as a family to get our antibody tests, and I heard them, and I first thought it was a flock of geese or something, and then I realized the sonic boom was something different. So I did, in fact, get to see them. But more importantly, we got an antibody test.
So how'd that turn out?
We'll find out. It wasn't a point of care test. It's one that gets sent off to a lab. So 3 to 5 days is what they're saying. But the
and it was blood. They took a blood sample.
They took a blood sample, yes. So we will find out, and I'll come back and report whether or not I'm positive or negative.
That's great. I'd love to hear that. And Chris, how's your health?
Friday, I get my test, so we're going to be looking forward to getting that out of the way. But I've been feeling pretty good, especially with all the kids running around all over the place. It's the usual. I miss seeing you guys. I miss taking a train into the city and being with you face to face. I really do.
I agree.
Get back.
I know. I miss seeing you. And Jeanette, your health is okay?
Everybody's good. Everybody's healthy.
And how hard is it to get the tests where you are? Jeanette, have you even tried?
No, I mean, look, I've had any reason to. They're saying if you don't have symptoms, don't even try to get a test. So it's been pretty difficult. It's seeming the cases are dropped and it's been pretty level here, so it should be easier. But for a while, you were really hitting a lot. We have over 100,000 cases here in New Jersey, so it's been pretty bad for a while.
Wow, well, stay healthy, Jeanette. It's always so nice talking with all of you. Jeanette Hoffman, Chris Markowski, and Mitch Rochelle. Thank you so much for joining us.